Welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. I might be becoming a bad baseball fan who can't enjoy the romantic things because of advanced statistics. 15 years from now, I want to be on the early baseball committee. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran.
I literally have the Fangraphs hoodie, the baseball reference t-shirt, just repping some stats, you know what I'm saying?
It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio. We're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there across from me, as you cannot see on YouTube, unfortunately, is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing very well. The World Series is now 3-2, going back to Houston for Game 6, and it's been a series to remember so far. Like, there's been a lot of cool moments, a lot of good games, and I feel like this series just feels like it's made for 7. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm starting out with a take right off the bat.
Yeah, it's kind of similar. It's easy to make parallels, but like kind of similar to 2019, where it's not the exact same format, but I mean the Astros did take 2 at the Phillies ballpark, the same sort of way they took 3 at the Nationals ballpark, and it's going back to Houston, where Houston needs to clinch it. And yeah, it's just similar vibes. Both teams, I think both teams kind of experienced new things in the playoffs. I mean, the Astros had never lost this postseason.
Period. Phillies have never lost at home.
Yeah. So yeah, it adds a new element. I think both teams are experiencing different things, and yeah, I'm very excited for at least Saturday.
Yeah, both teams, I believe, in this series have experienced things that no other team has experienced. Because the Astros, I believe, like the 5-run comeback was like the best one in World Series history or something like that. Was that a thing?
Well,
it was one of.
Yeah, no, maybe since a certain era, because
1929.
Yeah, I was about.
It was the 39-29. That one A's won.
Yeah, it was 1929.
Cubs A's.
The A's came back from 8-0 in all in one inning.
Yeah, and then the Phillies became the first team. There's not much research that has to be done into this, but they're the first team to be no-hit in the regular season and postseason in the same year.
Yeah,
because they got combined no-hit by the Mets, and they got combined no-hit by the Astros.
I forgot about that. That was another thing that didn't happen this year.
The Phillies combined no-hit in the Mets.
It happened last year.
It's very funny that 3 out of the 4 no-hitters this year have been combined.
True. Yeah, I mean,
I saw... I'll get into this later, but I just want to mention this now. There was those 70s sports accounts that will just go full boomer whenever they want. So... Of course, the combined no-hitter in the World Series have had them. I mean, they were in shambles. Seeing what had transpired in this once great game. Yeah. And they were like, we'll see how many people can name the pitchers this time next year. And one of our Jeremy Frank quote tweeted and said, "How much you want to bet this guy has no idea who Reed Detmers is?"
Yeah, true.
It's valid. It's the one solo no hitter of this season.
Right, the one no hitter they would call legitimate.
Yeah, nobody would have any idea.
Yeah, no. I mean, we'll probably get into the no hitter thing once we hit Game 4. But I mean,
yeah,
I've expressed my thoughts on no hitters. I think it's kind of an arbitrary way to look at a pitching performance.
It really, really is.
Yeah.
Although this one I would say was pretty legit.
I mean, obviously it's extremely impressive, but I just still think it's arbitrary. But anyway, I think we'll probably, we talked about games 1 and 2 in our last episode. Now we can get into, all 3 games at Citizens Bank Park. That's, obviously how it is. Game 3, I mean, it's Phillies from start to finish, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, 5 home runs in a game. That's the most. That's how the Astros have experienced something no one else has before. They gave up 5 home runs in a game.
Yeah.
It's tied for the most, I think, actually. They had a single pitcher do it. Lance McCullers Jr. gave up 5 home runs. There was all that stuff on Twitter about him tipping his pitches, but there was all very cherry picked, where it's like, here's one curveball and one fastball that he threw.
Right.
And it was like, he changed it. Like, if you watch Lance McCullers Jr., he changes up his motion so many times.
Yeah. It, like, I don't know. It. Sometimes people put on
the internet has taken a lot of L's this World Series, like with all the Framber stuff,
right?
The Lance McCullers Jr. stuff, and I think this is the general takeaway from the no hitter. Like it's kind of been bad.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I definitely understand because, people like to put on the detective hat sometimes and try to see things that might not be there. Yeah, I agree that McCullers. He tends to change his motion up a lot, and I don't know. It like maybe we've all heard like MLB players say that we talked with our analytics department, and on a roster of 12, like 9 are tipping pitches, and I definitely somewhat believe that. I think everyone has like a little something that they do, but it probably wasn't as obvious as the internet made it seem to be. However, I guess the one interesting thing was when who was it? Harper whispered over to, was it Brandon Marsh?
What was that?
Harper whispered over to, I think.
Oh,
Alec
it was Alec Boehm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the one interesting thing, and maybe he was tipping, but I think it was taken. I think it was blown out of proportion online a little bit.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, 5 home runs in a game. It's hard to imagine the Phillies had no idea what was coming.
Yeah, and I think the bigger storyline here is how I think the bigger storyline here is how he was in there to give up all 5 home runs.
Yeah, like he should not have been in there.
Yeah.
Even after the 3rd home run, I would say. It's funny because we've seen so many quick hooks with pitchers like in postseasons past. I don't think we've seen it as much this year. But like if we were in a different year and a different manager, like Lance McCullers Jr. would have been out of there maybe even before the Marsh home run. Like maybe it would have been after the Boehm homer.
Yeah, exactly. Like you forgot that you were watching Game 3 of the World Series.
Yeah, like think about Garrett Cole getting taken out in the 3rd inning after giving up a 2nd home run in the wild card game.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it was surprising. I think Dusty Baker has built a reputation of leaving guys in pretty long.
Yeah.
Even when he was with the Nationals, back in like 2017.
Yeah, didn't like Scherzer get burned late in the game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he has a history of doing that, and like it is weird. I think we forget about what happened last year with starting pitchers and how quick they were pulled. But Ian
Anderson was pulled after 5 with a no-hitter.
Yeah.
Like Christian Javier at least made it through 6.
Yeah, McCullers went like 4 1/3 with his worst stuff of the playoffs.
Yeah.
And he was just getting crushed, and like, I mean, it ultimately it didn't matter because the Astros didn't score any runs.
Yeah.
But like,
but also that kind of took
hindsight.
it out of him early. Like it was only 4-0 after the Marsh home run.
Yeah.
Like they were probably mentally out of it after the other 3.
And it's after a day off. It's not like the bullpen is burnt out, and they, Luis Garcia's there. That's a guy. That's someone who.
Why is he like not pitched at all this postseason?
He only gave up that Real Muto home run.
Yeah.
That's a situation where you put him in.
He also pitched the 17th and 18th innings of the Mariners game.
Right. Yeah, it's weird. Like, he should have been in, like, from the 3rd inning through like the 6th inning for the Astros.
Yeah.
Because he's not, he's not a bad pitcher.
And he did, who is it? Urquidy pitched very well.
Yeah.
Like he's definitely been an unsung hero in this series. Like he spared the bullpen in Game 3, which led to Games 4 and 5 being a success, obviously.
Yeah, Urquidy went 3 shutout innings with like 4 strikeouts, which is, he helped him out big time. So that they could. Without him, those wins in Games 4 and 5, especially 5, would have been a lot harder. But yeah, McCullers gave up 5 home runs. Ranger Suarez, on the other side, he did very well. He's pleasantly surprising me as the course of the postseason goes on. He He went 5 shutout innings. I think 4 strikeouts, 13 batted balls, 9 ground balls, which is 69.2%. League average is like 45%. So he was getting the ground ball. He was doing great, which was good. I mean, yeah, definitely a tale of just two opposite pitching performances.
Mm-hmm.
And the Phillies didn't have to use any like vital.
Yeah, like the Alvarados, the Eflins of the world. They got another day of rest.
The Dominguezes.
Yeah, which didn't end up mattering.
Yeah. So there was that kind of straightforward game. Then Game 4 happens. Very historic game. It's a no-hitter. What did you think about this one?
Game 4. It was cool.
Yeah.
It was cool. I have a take, and I apparently this is a hot take because I've been seeing a lot of negativity on the internet. Combined no-hitters get way too much hate. Like, it's still cool. Like, the big selling point on combined no-hitters is people just complaining about how they're not regular no-hitters. And yes, of course, solo no-hitters are cooler. Like, I don't think there's even an argument to be made there. But why can't we just appreciate a combined no-hitter for what it is? Like, why do we always have to compare it to a solo no-hitter?
Right.
Because every single time there's a combined no-hitter, that's always the first thing is like, well, it's not a no-hitter, so who cares? It's like, no, it's actually still cool. Like, it's only happened 3 times this year. Not like, remember how many no-hitters there were last season? Like, only 3 combined no-hitters compared to 1 other actual no-hitter in this season. Like, combined no-hitters, I think, can still be cool. I think they only exist to most baseball fans' minds to just be like the secondary to regular no-hitters. And like, yes, they're not as cool, but they can still be cool.
Yeah. Well, especially in a game like this where, this game was vital to the Astros. And they went out and, I mean, it was a very legit no-hitter. There was no BABIPery going on. They struck out 14 Phillies, which were 46.7% of the batters they faced.
Mm-hmm.
They only allowed one line drive. The Phillies had an 0.81 expected batting average, which is unbelievable.
Yep.
You put down in the notes that that 0.81 expected batting average is the 3rd lowest a team had in a game this season.
Yeah, it was the other 2 were some Diamondbacks game in June and a Cubs game in June.
And then it's the lowest expected batting average in a playoff game in the StatCast era.
By like 16 points.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close.
Which makes sense because this is the first no-hitter in the StatCast era.
In the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool that so there's obviously now 3 no-hitters / perfect games in the postseason in MLB history. 2 out of the 3 have been thrown in Citizens Bank Park, which is only like 15 years old.
True.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, right.
Like all of the years of baseball history. It's like, was Don Larson's at Ebbets Field or Yankee Stadium?
I think it was Yankee Stadium.
So it's like old Yankee Stadium, which is, this historic building that's housed so many champions and legends and Hall of Famers. And then Citizens Bank Park, which was built 15 years ago, is 2 playoff no-hitters.
Yeah, and also Yankee Stadium, like they were in the World Series every year.
Yeah.
Citizens Bank Park, they were in the playoffs a few years and then had an 11-year drought.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had 08, 09, 10, 11, 22.
Yep. So yeah, the Astros stepped up. Their bullpen has been very consistent throughout the postseason. I mean, and by consistent, I mean absolutely dominant the entire time.
100%.
Specifically, Brian Abreu, Rafael Montero, Ryan Presley, and even like Hector Neris too.
I want to see more Hector Neris in this series. I wish we saw him more in Philly.
Yeah, right.
That would have been way more fun.
Christian Javier continued his dominance. He's now only allowed 1 run in his last 35 1/3 innings pitched.
That's ridiculous.
Which is
that's better than Devin Williams' season in 2020.
True. Yeah.
He was 33.1, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was just 33. And it was 1 run allowed.
Well, I think it was a .33.
Yeah.
ERA. I think he threw 27 innings. And
Yeah, that would
made
make
it for
sense.
a .33
That
ERA.
would make sense.
Uh,
By the way, 1 run in 27 innings, and Christian Javier's 1 run in 35.
Yeah. Christian Javier, he had 9 strikeouts, 2 walks in 6 innings. Good on the Phillies. I think they kept their at-bats kind of long, which upped his pitch count a little bit. Javier allowed 9 batted balls, 3 were pop-ups, and 4 were batted balls at 53-plus degrees, which is, automatic out.
Exactly.
Christian Javier, he also used his four-seam fastball 72% of the time. That's 12% above his season average. And, four-seam fastball usage, it typically, in today's game, obviously kind of goes down and down and down. Obviously, there's sinkers are more in action and use of breaking balls is more in action, but Javier kind of going old school in Game 4. And then Brian Abreu came in. He struck out the side. He had 9 swings against him. 7 of them were swings and misses. That's just an underrated dominant inning. So yeah, I mean, it was pure domination. It wasn't like, balls just happened to find gloves. It was like, no, the Phillies were not going to get a hit. The Astros were not going to allow them to get a hit.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was just dominant pitching all around.
Right.
And the Astros defense was also excellent, both in that game and just in the series in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Astros defense, you haven't really been able to find any weird plays that they've had.
No.
With weird plays in Astros playoff games, it's always the other team making the weird mistake. But yeah, it was a combined no-hitter. I get down on combined no-hitters, but I think with every no-hitter, it depends on the type of no-hitter. I think the Mets had a combined no-hitter early in the season. They had 6 walks and they used 4 different, or I think they used 5 different pitchers or something like that.
It was 4.
It was 4.
It
okay.
was, yeah, because the picture that they took afterwards was 5 people, but Christian Vasquez was in it. Makes sense. Yeah,
well,
it
I think
was.
Or the Mets or
the Mets no hitter.
The Mets no hitter.
I want to say 4.
I know Tyler McGill started.
Yeah, I think it might have been 5. I think Tyler McGill. He either went 5 or 6 innings. He probably went 5.
Yeah, I'll look that up.
Gut.
But that was a particular one where they it was 4.
It was in April.
It was in April. It was 6 it was 6 walks, and and then last year there was the Cubs had a combined no-hitter where I think it was similar, and they had
8 walks.
They had 8 walks. They allowed a 250 on base percentage against, but it's a no-hitter. Yeah, I'm looking at this game. It was April 29th. McGill walked 3 guys.
I was at an event. I was at an event that one of my friends was holding, so I was not able to watch this game. But I was getting the updates and be like, "Oh, is this a cool no hitter?" And then I looked through the stats and I was like, "Oh no, it's not. 6 walks."
Yeah, it was 5. It was 5 guys. It was Tyler McGill, Drew Smith, Joely Rodriguez, Seth Lugo, and Edwin Diaz.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, but this one and the other one that Javier was involved in, Javier against the Yankees, he went 7 innings. 13.
He was nice in that game.
Yeah, he went 7 innings, 13 strikeouts. I think the bullpen got 3 more strikeouts.
Yeah, I believe the Yankees had an 0.82 expected batting average in that game.
Yeah,
which was the 4th lowest that a team has had this season, of course.
Yeah.
So the Astros very, very slightly outdid themselves in this no-hitter, actually.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I saw a cool stat that so Javier obviously started the other combined no-hitter for the Astros. Aaron Nola started for the Phillies in that game, and that matchup was Javier versus Nola.
Wait, wait, on that day?
So the April 29th no-hitter for the Mets-Phillies, McGill started and Nola also started for the Phillies.
Oh.
Javier started the Yankees combined no-hitter, and they faced each other in that game, which also ended up being a combined no-hitter. So there been 3 combined no-hitters this season, and Aaron Nola and Christian Javier have both started in 2 of them.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yep.
That's quite a, yeah.
It's an interesting feat.
And speaking of Aaron Nola, I mean, as long as...
The Bibbery got to him in that 1 inning.
I don't know if it was bad bippery.
Well, I mean, it wasn't bad Bippery, but like he gave up a lot of hits. That's more my point. Like Aaron Nola, he's great, but he also gives up a lot of hits, and that was one of those games.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of been what I've been forecasting for him for much of the postseason. And it really happened in that start. He is a 3.33 BABIP against throughout the postseason.
Yeah.
A 4.91 ERA and a 3.74 FIP. And a 275 xFIP because he does have a decent amount of home runs per 9, which is understandable. But
yeah, and he looking back at specifically like the 4th inning when the bases were loaded, there were some balls that guys were hitting out of the strike zone and they were getting for hits, albeit solid hits. I mean, Aaron Nola gave up 9 line drives in that game out of 15 batted balls, which is 60% of his batted balls were line drives. So. They were getting a good look at him, squaring it up. And, I mean, obviously you can't really control, or I guess you can sort of control if you're giving up line drives against. But to me, what that says is, like, they're seeing their pitches well and they can, like, because obviously
you're squaring it up.
Yeah, if you're a hitter, you're mostly trying to either line it or hit a fly ball. I think that's mostly the goal. I don't think hitters are going out there trying to ground it or pop it up because it's just not, it doesn't really work. But yeah, like, it was kind of a rough one. The final line was 4 innings, 3 runs allowed, which isn't the worst, but isn't the best. But ultimately, it didn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, the Phillies did not give him run support or hit support.
Yeah, and they struck out 14 times in 30 plate appearances. But I think a lot of credit can be given to the Astros there.
You have to. I mean, all around they pitched extremely well. Javier was fantastic. 97 pitches through 6. I believe it was for him.
Yeah, maybe. Probably.
Yeah.
I didn't check beforehand.
I was in this exact room that we're recording and watching.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, Astros tied up. Then it's game 5 time. Verlander Syndergaard. Game kind of starts immediately with Jose Altuve hitting a double off the top of the wall. He gets driven in on a Jeremy Pena single, and Astros are on the board, but Syndergaard gets out of that situation. Verlander allows a home run to Kyle Schwarber on a fastball that was actually out of the zone, but either way, home run Kyle Schwarber, but he gets out of that inning with no more damage. Kind of hits a lull for a little bit. Then in the 4th inning, Jeremy Pena hits a solo home run, and yeah, or was it 4th inning or 3rd inning?
We're talking game 5.
Yeah.
I want to say it was 4th. It was definitely 4th. Yeah.
So yeah, Pena hit a solo home run. Syndergaard's out. And yeah, kind of a lot of situations where bases were loaded up or, runners were in scoring position, but not a lot of capitalization. Both teams only had 1 hit with runners in scoring position, but they had a lot more opportunities.
Astros defense balled out late. That was really the big takeaway there.
I mean, yeah, Chas McCormick with the play of the game.
And even Mancini the inning before.
Yeah, true.
So it was funny. So in the 8th inning, it was 3-1, and the Phillies started up a rally, and they got men on the corners with 1 out. Was it? Yeah, they got men on the corners with 1 out.
Yeah.
And they had also scored a run.
Yeah, Gene Segura drove in a run there.
Yeah. That's single, by the way. So that Gene Segura single to put runners on the corners and making it a 3-2 game. That currently has the highest CWPA of any play in this series.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, who was it that struck out? I think it was Marsh struck out, and then Schwarber lined one to Mancini.
Yeah.
He was holding the runner on the bag, and
It was,
they had just taken Gurry out of the game too. Like Mancini was essentially a defensive replacement because his bat's been kind of non-existent this whole postseason.
yeah, Schwarber hit one 98.7 miles per hour, 4-degree launch angle, 560 expected batting average.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a hit 56% of the time. But yeah, I mean, if Segura doesn't hit the single, then the inning's over. But also, if Segura's not on first, that's a ground ball by Mancini, and if the defensive positioning wasn't how it was, and Mancini didn't have to hold Segura, could be a whole different ball game. But he made a great play, pretty difficult play. Ball was hit very hard, and yeah, like kind of. That's part of what the Astros have been winning. How the Astros have been winning games. I mean, they were, I think, a top 3 defense in OAA and defensive runs saved. Like that's how they get things done.
And then Chas McCormick, obviously, that was a sick catch. It was weird because I had such a weird evolution of thought with that hit. I was like off the bat, I was like, oh, that looks good, and I was like, oh, that can get in the cap. And then Chas kept going. I was like, oh, is that gone? And then I was like, oh, no, it's going to be off the wall. And then Chas made that catch.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know what was happening, but the entire way I was like, this is going to be big for the Phillies. Like, it's either going to be a double, it's going to be a homer. Like, something big's happening with Harper coming up with 1 out.
Yeah, right. I didn't know what to think based off of McCormick's reaction. I was like,
yeah.
I didn't think he was going to catch it, but he did. I mean,
he wasn't selling that he was there, and it makes sense. He had to jump off the wall to make it the catch. Like, not everyone's Jackie Bradley Jr. where they can, just sell that they don't have it and then have it all the way.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's what McCormick's there for. That's what McCormick's at center field for. He's probably their best. Outside of maybe Jeremy Pena, but their best defensive player.
Yeah.
He was actually one of my 2022 Astros players to watch.
Who else did you have?
I had Ryan Presley.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. You did have Presley.
Yeah, I said I think I prefaced him by being like he's not a household name, but he should be. But yeah, like that. That's a very good point that you make. That the Astros defense played a huge role, and yeah, it made it so that they could win this game. If they didn't have as skilled players out in that field, they probably don't win that game. A quick shout out, not that it's that relevant to the game, but Connor Brogdon just killed it in his 2 innings of work.
No, he did though. Like I was watching.
2 innings, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts, 7 batters faced, 5 strikeouts, 54% whiff rate. And it's just Connor Brogdon. Like that just sounds like a guy from middle school.
That's a great point.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Connor Brogdon. Yeah, he dropped his lunch on the floor. It's gonna.
Dude, did you hear what he said in history class today?
Yeah,
what Connor said.
He's such a goofball, that Connor Brogdon. Yeah, but yeah. So the Astros go into Minute Maid Park with a 3-2 World Series lead. We've seen this 3 years ago. It didn't work out for them, although every year is different. I personally love the pitching matchup tonight for the Astros. I know Zach Wheeler has built a good reputation for himself, but like even in Wheeler's good starts, it's not like the domination that you want. Like I've been looking at a little bit at Wheeler's underlying numbers, and he has throughout the playoffs.
He's been great, other than that one start.
Throughout the playoffs, he has a 91.4 mile per hour exit velocity against, and he's a 10.3% barrel rate against, which are both.
He did have that one. Was it NLCS Game 1 where he got very lucky, or was that a different start of his? Was it the Cardinals start?
I would say NLCS Game 1 and NL Wildcard Game 1. Mm-hmm. There were some barrels that were turned into outs.
Those are literally the 2 starts I mentioned. But yeah.
NLCS Game 1, I think he gave up 3 barrels that were all outs.
So the Astros just found a way to have him fall.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, what I saw in Game 2 was he was locating very poorly.
Right.
And the Astros were taking advantage. Yeah, I think that's really what it's going to come down to because, of course, Zach Wheeler now controls the Phillies' season.
Yeah.
It's going to be him and Framber, which is I think it's cool, underrated storyline that Framber is getting a chance of redemption in Game 6. That was Luis Garcia.
Yeah.
Shit. That's unfortunate. But you know what? He's getting revenge from Game 1 last year.
Yeah, true.
Soler took him deep there too.
True. Yeah. Yeah. Like the way they're trending. Like Wheeler, we pointed out in our last episode. Wheeler was throwing a lot of balls just right down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
He gave up 7 hard hit balls that were located in game day zone 5, which is middle.
Mm-hmm.
To put it
The
in
worst
layman's
place you
terms.
want it to be.
The worst place you want it to be. Not anywhere near a corner of the of the strike zone. So he gave up 7 hard hit balls in that specific location. Meanwhile, Framber hasn't given up, or he's given up 1 run in his last 2, or 1 earned run in his last 2 starts. His strikeout numbers are up. His whiff rates are up.
His ground ball numbers are still his ground ball numbers.
Yeah. So even when guys are hitting the ball against him, it's not going in the right direction. So I mean, like, if I'm an Astros fan, I feel pretty confident going into this next one.
Yeah, I mean, I think since 2017, it feels like this is the best chance they've had. Like, I know that they were in this exact same scenario in 2019, but I don't know.
They had to face Strasburg.
Exactly.
And
like,
they had to face Max Scherzer.
They had Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg lined up against them, and
yeah,
it worked out. And it worked out for the Nationals, And even if it wasn't because they got Max Scherzer or Steven Strasburg, like that Nationals had to come back in both those games, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Right.
But the bullpen's in so much better shape now than it was back then.
Yeah.
Like instead of, Will Harris and who else? Joe Smith coming out of that bullpen. It's Brian Abreu and Ryan Presley and Hector Neris and Rafael Montero. Like they have so many better names now than they did in 2019.
Who are just like really riding a ton of momentum.
Does McCullers doesn't start game 3 if it gets there, does it? Or
game
game 7? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Dusty Baker, I'm asking if Javier, are you good to start game 7?
I know. I think he said after the game he's good to go like 3 in that game, which honestly I might just do that. Like throw Javier out there for 3. Hell, if it's game 7, just go until he can't because it's game 7.
Yeah.
And then
no
ride it out.
left.
Ride it out with your bullpen. See, just I would say Lance McCullers should never see the field again.
Right. Yeah.
I think that kind of goes without saying.
Yeah, like no reason to put him out there. Urquidy looked
Urquidy too. Have him start game 7.
Yeah.
Or have Javier start and go 3. Have Urquidy go 3 if he doesn't in the next couple of days in game 6 at least.
Yeah, that was the next point I was going to bring up is like Javier. He did pitch 97 pitches, but he had game 5 day off day off, game 6 day off.
It would be 3 days rest.
3 days rest,
and it's not like you have to save him for anything else.
Yeah. It's short rest, but we've seen like guys do it all the time in the playoffs. Go off 3 days rest.
Yeah.
So yeah, just use him for however long you can. Also, if he's starting, he's gonna get like probably the routine, like the warm up routine he wants to have.
Yeah.
And the preparation he wants to have. So I think you just start him and see where it goes, and just have arms ready. But I mean, who knows? There might not be a game 7.
Yeah, I mean, the Phillies got to win Game 6 first.
Right.
But I think there is a lot of talking points over in what to do. And I don't think we'll ever know if there's not a Game 7 what the plan was. And we're obviously not going to know if the Astros wrap it up in 6. I don't think they're going to even think about Game 7 until there is one.
Yeah.
But there are going to be some decisions to be made if that scenario comes to play.
Yeah, very much so. And I wonder if Lance McCullers hadn't been there for 2017 and hadn't had those great performances in 2017, I wonder if he's given the same
treatment,
as long of a leash.
Well, I don't know, because
Dusty
Baker wasn't there.
He wasn't there, but also
I'm sure he knows what had happened, but he was also with a different team at the time.
I think with the playoffs, I think experience is valued, and the fact that he's been able to be a big game pitcher before probably favored him over a guy like Javier.
He started Game 7 in 2017 of the World Series. He pitched in relief in Game 7 of the ALCS that year. Of course, he threw 24 consecutive curveballs in that game.
Right.
I'm widely remembered for that. But I mean, he's still probably recovering from injury. Like, he only came back in September.
Yeah, I mean,
and it made no sense to put him on the mound over Javier in Game 3.
Right. Like if you just looked at
That would have been a sick pitchers duel.
it, yeah, it definitely would have been. If you just looked at this year and the facts of this year and how Javier ended the season. McCullers didn't end the season poorly, but Javier just ended the season dominantly. You look at how their starts went against the Yankees. I think it would have been a pretty clear choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Kind of sets them up in a weird spot for Game 7 if it happens. Any thoughts on what will happen?
Well, I mean, we originally had Phillies in 6, and that can't happen now.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Wheeler, it really comes down to if Wheeler can locate. I think Framber, you know what you're going to get out of him. Then again, all it takes is one bad pitch, 2 bad pitches from Framber, because this Phillies lineup is very capable of taking him deep. I think over half the guys in that lineup can.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if Framber's on it, it's going to be a tough day. But all it takes is like 1 or 2 tough pitches for him to not be on it.
True.
You know what? I am going to go Astros in 6. I think they wrap it up in Game 6. Even it's weird because I said this series deserves to go 7 with how it's gone, but I don't know. Like Wheeler, if you look on paper, he's gotten the results, but the pitch execution hasn't exactly been there, and it especially wasn't there in Game 2.
Yeah. I think, for me, I think the Astros are going to wrap it up tomorrow night, Saturday night.
Yeah.
However, if they don't, I think the Phillies are taking the series.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Astros in 7 is the least likely scenario here.
Yeah, right. If we're going into the graphs and the data, the ARR graphs have Astros in 7 at the lowest probability.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my thought process. I'm not shocked at any result here. Both teams have a lot of reason to be in this scenario.
Yeah.
And I think that either one of them can pull it out. But yeah, Framber is the hot hand.
No doubt. Like that's other than Javier, that's the guy I want on the mound right now if I'm Dusty Baker. I would be very happy to see Dusty get a ring. Even though he hasn't managed this series the best, like he's done enough to deserve it.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool to see the Astros just like eliminate all of the narratives.
True.
And say like, hey, you can't say anything about this one.
True. Very true.
But I also think it'd be cool to see a Phillies come back. I think it'd be cool to see Bryce Harper win a World Series. To see like Kyle Schwarber win another one.
Yeah.
Rhys Hoskins, Nick Castellanos, JT Realmuto, Dave Dombrowski, Rob Thompson.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, even guys that have stars of the team like Nolan Wheeler.
Yeah.
Seeing them get it. Yeah. Absolutely. It'll be fun, and yeah, this is our last time recording as baseball is going on.
Oh, that's so crazy. I don't like it.
Yeah, we'll be talking soon enough. We'll be talking awards and then a Hall of Fame and.
Oh boy, we got the most important era committee election of all time coming up.
This is the golden days.
No, they changed around the committee system.
Oh,
They made it so there's 2 committees. It's pre-1980 and post-1980. And the post-1980 committee is voting this year, which is so stupid.
Yeah, very
because
weird.
It's literally like Bill Dalen is going to be on the same ballot as like Dave Parker.
Yeah, that is very funny.
Or like Reggie Smith.
I guess that throws off my intro, the show intro now.
Yeah, you're right.
Where I said 15 years from now I
Yeah,
want to
dude,
be in
it's
the
the
early
worst.
baseball committee. Because
It's the worst.
Because the funny thing about the early baseball committee is like
I think the early baseball committee just votes like every 15 years, so maybe that is still a thing.
I think that's why I said 15 years from now.
Because they had last voted in like 2006 and they did in 2021.
Right. Like
so maybe it does still exist. We're going to see them next in 2037.
Yeah, it's just the funny thing about it is like
2036
is like literally no one was alive to see them play.
Nope.
So it's like we have
like
the same validation as a guy who's 80.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's a funny thing.
Yeah, Hall of Fame discourse is going to be for anyone that still cares,
Right.
because the appeal of the Hall of Fame definitely shrunk a lot over the last year.
Aren't we getting ready for the new cheaters in Hall of Fame?
Yes, we sure are.
Discussion.
Yeah, because Carlos Beltran is the one like legit first year on the ballot this year. That's the only one that's worth any sort of look, in my opinion. I will likely be voting for him. I've started looking at my ballot like a couple weeks ago because I got a big decision to make for spot number 10.
Yep.
If there will be a spot number 10, who will it be? Because I've wanted to put Mark Burley for so long, but I feel it's almost hypocritical to put Mark Burley and not put Andy Pettitte or vice versa. Like, it's got to be both or neither because they are the same pitcher.
Yeah, it's just one happened to be on teams that got to the playoffs more.
But the other one also won a World Series.
Right, exactly.
like they're the same. They're both left-handed. They have virtually the same numbers.
Yeah, right. It's like upper threes ERA.
Yeah, like same FIP, same innings. Like it's legit. It's weird how similar Mark Burley and Andy Pettitte are.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, we'll
it's
definitely
funny because I've never looked at Andy Pettitte as a Hall of Famer, but I always was like, "Ooh, Mark Burley," and I think it's because of the eras they played in. Like Mark Burley was sort of the last of his kind, while Andy Pettitte was just in the mix.
Yeah, like he was always he was pitching at the same time as like Maddox, Smoltz, Glavine, Johnson, Martinez.
Yeah, like the stat that I've had, I believe, is that like Mark Burley leads the majors in seasons with at least 200 innings pitched since 2000.
Yeah, right.
And he retired in 2015.
Yeah,
so.
right. It'll be interesting to see. I know personally I have like 4 openings now after last year. Or maybe even 5 because I know obviously Ortiz got elected.
Ortiz, Bonds, Clemens. Did you vote? You did vote for Sosa.
Yeah.
And then Schilling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did not vote for Sosa, so I have 1 less than you do.
So I'm definitely adding some guys that have already been on the ballot.
It's got to be the Scott Rowland year.
Yeah,
He had got 63.2%, I believe, last year.
Right.
If he has the same gain, which I think he's going to because there's going to be a lot of writers that have a lot of openings this year, he's going to find his way on some ballots.
Yeah.
And I think this is the year that Scott Rowland gets in the Hall of Fame. I think it's going to be the year that we see like significant enough gains from like Andrew Jones, Billy Wagner, Todd Helton. Well, they won't get in, but we're going to be like, okay, there's going to be a day.
Yeah.
I'm big on how I looked at it because I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, but like Billy Wagner, I believe, is entering his 8th year, and he had a better 7th year percentage than Edgar Martinez and Larry Walker.
Very interesting.
So Larry Walker had like 25%.
Well, yeah, Larry Walker was like the biggest jump ever.
He was, that has to be the most unlikely like eventual Hall of Famer based on ballot results.
Very true. Yeah, like I know. I know. I'm big on the Andrew Jones wagon, and if you're interested in more Hall of Fame dialogue, go to our YouTube channel, Above Replacement Radio. We have a playlist from 2 years ago.
But it's
not outdated at all.
I was gonna say it's like well, of course we did forget about Andrew Jones' 2021 season.
Yeah, right. It's not outdated at all. We have bubble case breakdowns for.
Bobby Abreu,
Todd Helton, Andrew Jones, Scott Rowland, Billy Wagner, all the PED players, which some of them are off the ballot now.
And Omar Vizquel.
I think Jeff Kent.
Jeff Kent, we did have one. He's going to be in his last year.
Yeah.
He's the only 10th year on the ballot. He's not getting in. He's not getting in.
Which is good.
Dan Shaughnessy will put out a Kent-only ballot for the 3rd straight year, most likely.
Oh boy. Well,
so he'll have to choose a new one. But I look ahead to Hall of Fame stuff so much because the 2023 ballot, the 2023 to 24 ballot, I guess, that's gonna be a fun one. Like I've been looking forward to that one for probably 2 years now.
Yeah, because
it's gonna be Chase Utley, Joe Mauer, Adrian Beltre.
Yep.
Those are the big 3.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah, like 3 legit first years.
It will be. I think it'll be almost relieving not getting mad at people leaving Bonds and Clemens off.
Yes, but there's also going to be so much because I'm so very particular about my ballot, and it's like seriously, you didn't put. It'll be a really good 8-person ballot. I'm like, seriously, you left Todd Helton off. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like all of the 8 guys, I will agree with. It'll be like a ballot of like Abreu and Jones and Wagner and Sheffield, even let's say, and all of the guys that I think should be in, but no like Helton or apply that to anyone. I like it's so hard for me to not get upset at Abreu list ballots.
Yeah,
even though he's on like 8% of ballots.
Right.
It's like they don't know what I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Because objectively, Bobby Abreu was not a Hall of Famer, but on paper, he is.
Right.
Like, if you watched him play, you didn't think, wow, there goes a Hall of Famer in Bobby Abreu. But you know what?
Right. Yeah. Like, he had, I think, 9 2020 seasons or something like that.
He has the most, he's one of, I believe, 3 players in history with, like, what is it? What's the stat? Hold on. He's on a list of all-time players with just him, Barry Bonds, and Rickey Henderson.
I know. I think him and Bonds are the only players with like an 850 plus OPS or no, that's not true.
Okay, he and Bonds are the only players in MLB history with 200 home runs, 400 stolen bases, and an 850 OPS.
Yeah. Yep.
He's the only player in the last 65 years, which I guess would be 67 years now, to put up multiple seasons with 10 plus triples and 100 plus walks. I believe if you count like OBP and stolen bases and maybe like some sort of power stat, it's him, Bonds, and Rickey, but I've never actually tweeted it out.
Yeah. And I know there's some good stuff on our bubble case breakdown of him. Back from 2020. But yeah, kind of went off in a different direction, but I appreciated it. That should do it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. As we mentioned, last time recording while baseball is going on.
Yep.
Been kind of an interesting season. Obviously, it's gone late. We didn't know if it was going to start on time, and it didn't, but it only started like 1 week late. And we're here in first week of November. It's 75 degrees out, but it's still the first week of November, and the baseball season isn't over. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, and follow the show on Instagram at Above Replacement Radio. Also, if you happen to be listening on YouTube, just the audio-only versions, and you want to be able to listen, and actually do stuff on your phone. If you don't like
our faces.
Yeah.
Understandable.
We have feeds on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Obviously, if you don't have an iPhone or an Apple device, you can go to Spotify and have a free account. You'll just have some ads with that. But, go to that if you want to be able to listen, and save some battery doing that. Because I know some people have found the YouTube channel finding, a couple of our clips or interviews. So, check that out. And, we hope you enjoyed this one. And we hope to see you next time where we are talking about the World Series champions.
Yeah.
Whoever they may be.
Yep.
This conversation is over.